Thank you for listening to the Tattness podcast on the tattnessco.network.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. A Mercedes kind of sentiment, luxury, and trust in me to honor the free we all should be. It sees my sundial burst into yin and yang, right and left, me and you.
What's up, you guys? Welcome to the Tattness podcast, and happy Monday. I know for a lot of you, there's probably no such thing. For me, I find weekends to be kind of boring. I don't know. That's when my schedule slows down a bit, and I got nothing going on. I so seldom get free time that I just don't know what to do with myself. Today's guest is going to hit you right in the childhood for a lot of you. Today we got Jon Stewart. You know, you may recognize him from Power Rangers in multiple years, 2017, 2012, and 2009, if I'm not mistaken. He's been in the movie in 2017. He's done the 2009, 2012 TV shows, I believe. And among other things, he's been in Supernatural and quite a bit. So before we get into that, though, and Blue is back, by the way, for this show, because she's a huge, as you probably know, a huge Power Rangers nut. So I had to bring her back on this one. Didn't have to take any convincing either. Before I get into that, though, I need to say a lot of thank yous, man. You guys may know by now, but for those that don't, I just want to give a shout out and a huge thank you for the massive honor from New York and LA Weekly Times for recognizing the Tattness Podcast Uncensored as number 10 out of their top 50 shows in the world. So I'm right up there in the top 10 with Joe Rogan and others, and Jimmy Starr and Ron Russell. It's like, wow, dude. I went on vacation and that's what happened. I took a 3-day vacation. I went camping and I was shot a text from somebody letting me know, and I thought that was the coolest thing. So I appreciate that. Also, shout out to Eileen Shapiro, who has published an article about me in Celebrity Zones, which I'm extremely grateful for. And shout out to Maxim model Sherry Nelson, who has given me such a high honor. She was given the opportunity to interview anyone she wanted for her first in-print interview for XS10 magazine, and she chose me, which I'm so honored. So shout out to her and XS10 magazine. Such an honor. And the editor actually was very close friends, and if you know anything about me, you'll know this means a lot to me. Was very close friends with Rick James, and he's actually friends with Rick's daughter, and he has a lot of business dealings with Sean Diddy Combs, and he was the A&R guy for Def Jam. So that's a huge honor that someone of that caliber wants to publish an interview about me, about your boy. Things are happening, man. I really appreciate it. It's a high honor, and I don't even know what to say, man. It's just been a crazy ride these last 4 years, and with this show being in its first year, today will be like the 76th show. I haven't even broke 100 shows yet, and we're killing it. So it's amazing, and I'm so grateful. But now it's time for your childhood memory lane trip, to hear some stories about Power Rangers, because a lot of you probably grew up with it, and all the other interesting things that Jon's got to say. So Jon Stewart from the Power Rangers film and the show and multiple other films. I think it's going to be a good one, man. You're going to have to find out. Check it out. All right, how's it going?
Hiya, thanks for having us.
No worries. Thanks for coming on.
Jon loves a photo op. You'll see him popping in with his camera.
Yeah, lately I've been doing this by myself. This is my producer. Everyone knows Blue.
Yep.
But she's like the biggest Power Rangers nut. Oh. So I was like, all right, you can't miss this one. So.
Yeah, I am. I actually have a tattoo on my shoulder of the original coin. I'm a huge nerd.
Are you kidding?
Yes.
She grew up with it, so.
Yeah, I mean, I was born 1990, so, when the show first came on air in 93, I was, like, oh my God, so. Yeah, I'm a huge nerd.
I love it too. I couldn't convince John to name our band after a Power Rangers character, but
Yes.
How's that going for you?
the music is amazing.
Mhm.
So that's the main collaboration that John and I have. We're starting to move into some fun like directing actress dynamics because I'm a longtime actress, and with our music videos we're able to work on that dynamic. But yeah, it's all about the music for us. It's a pretty new project. Whatever you want to talk about first, I'm cool with. We can talk about the music first.
Yeah.
Yeah, so John and I are in a band. It's called Juliana. The Spanish translation is Juliana because we actually make Spanish music.
That's awesome.
And yeah, we might not look like it, but my second language is Spanish. I'm from Florida.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
So I've been speaking Spanish for about 10 years, and John's been making music for his whole life. And he recently, we were working on some music together, and he started coming up with these Latin type melodies, and it just kind of clicked. Like I told him I was open to writing lyrics in Spanish, and that's the kind of music he was looking to go towards, that direction. And turns out that collaboration was a lot better than some of the country stuff we were working on, and we started getting into the recording studio, and it's been a really fast up and up journey. So I'm really having a lot of fun.
Awesome.
That is awesome. And yeah, I could see Spanish anything being better than like country. So makes perfect sense to me.
Ouch.
I mean, I love Spanish food and anything that goes with that culture. It's just so there's something about it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's like so lively, and the guitar playing and everything, and the language itself is very beautiful. I really admire it.
Me too. As an artist, I feel like that language is almost an art within itself because it's so romantic and poetic. And I mean, it's a romance language, but it really, when I started learning it, it felt like song to me naturally. Like I was able to pick it up so easily because it does feel like it has that romantic energy to it.
I feel like a lot of people find it's one of the easier languages for them to learn in comparison to a lot of others.
Mm-hmm.
They just pick up on it, and maybe that's why. I mean, I'm from Canada, but I don't know a lick of French. You know what I mean? It's not my thing. And trying to teach me any of it, I'm just like, I don't know what you're saying, dude. Just no interest whatsoever. But I always found like Spanish, there's something about it that it's like, okay, that I would pay attention to.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty cool with Spanish as compared to French. Like the Spanish language, it has so many, even the same language has so many dialects and ways of speaking it too. So I grew up, like my best friend was Mexican, and the way that they spoke Spanish, it was pretty proper. And then I dated this guy who was Cuban, and I could hardly communicate with his family because they skip over words and they mumble. I dated someone from the Dominican Republic, and it was like totally different from Cuban. And I was like jumping around with this language. It's so much different. It's not like any other language, in my opinion.
Yeah, it does have its like variations and differences, and especially when you run into people that are so fluent, it's like they're comfortable with skipping over a lot of stuff, and it's just like you're trying to keep up, but it's just like, okay, I know some of what you said, but you lost me like way back, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's you know,
so that's a little, sorry to cut you off, that's a little bit of a complication with my way of speaking Spanish because I did learn in school mostly. And so I have this really proper way that I like to speak and grammatically correct and things like that, and matching that over the melodies. And then I'll show some of my friends, and it's like, oh, like I think you should be like advertising this in Spain because it's so like proper compared to a lot of like native Spanish speakers. But it's been fun. We have gotten the compliment that our music sounds really authentically Spanish. So that's always a good thing to hear when you're not native speakers, and John's not Latin either. So
definitely, that's a huge compliment because you know, people that do learn typically don't learn that well that you could be mistaken for fluent in the language. They usually pick up quite a bit, but there's always, you know, those areas where they're lacking, so people can tell it's like that's not your first language. So yeah, that'd be a hell of a compliment because you're doing something right, obviously.
Gracias.
See, that I understood.
Yep. It's funny. I have some Hispanic influence in my family through marriage. My niece her father's from Ecuador, and my aunt actually married a man from Ecuador as well. So I have a little bit of, you know, experience with that. And the only word I know is basta, which is enough, right? And that's all I know. So. Yeah, but it's just, you know, it's such an interesting culture and very, you know, friendly and loving and that, like, very, it's just so fascinating. But yeah, the language too, definitely. It's just crazy.
I love that you brought up that the people are so accepting and loving to everyone, because when I first started making this music, I did have a little bit of a concern, I guess, in that I didn't want to be appropriating this culture, and I wanted to make sure that when I'm speaking it, I'm being really respectful and showing my appreciation. And I do like to compare the likeness to like opera. A lot of opera is in Italian, and I feel like language is sort of transitional through music, and you're able to use a language that you don't necessarily speak. But I was talking to my Spanish friends, and all of them were saying, like, we want to hear what you have to make. Like, that's great that you're wanting to bring that culture into your music. And it was all positive and welcoming, which I wasn't sure what to expect when I started asking my friends. So that was really nice to hear. And I love the Spanish culture and Spanish people, and the Spanish-speaking countries I've traveled to are amazing. I really want to go to Ecuador.
Oh, I heard it's amazing there. My sister and my aunt have gone there time and time again to meet, you know, the family of their partners and that. And my aunt and, you know, my uncle go there regularly because my uncle's family is still down there. But a lot of them did come to Canada and that. But, you know, they try to go regularly just to, you know, keep in touch with the family and that, and for vacation. And I always just hear such positive, like, raving experiences about it. And I believe my uncle is from Quito, I believe it is. I hope I didn't say it wrong. Oh gosh, but
so, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so I know that. I'm not quite sure about my niece's father. So I think the same city. I'm not really sure, but just every time they go, I just love hearing the stories, and it just sounds like phenomenal.
So is your niece, does she speak Spanish fluently?
She not fluently. She actually picked it up as she grew up from her grandmother, her father's mother, and she speaks it really well. And I remember she just picked it up, and she actually dated someone that was fluent in Spanish, and she did great. And I remember her hearing her talk on the phone to her grandmother in Spanish, and it was like flawless, because I mean, she was born here in Canada. So
right.
Wow.
So I love hearing that, because in Florida, so many of my friends would be Latinx, and some of them wouldn't even have the language very strong, because when you immigrate, when you come to America, when you come to Canada, so often the parents want the children to be able to assimilate and speak English as their first language and their primary language. And I feel like Spanish is getting lost amongst people that are Latinx, and especially immigrants who feel like they can't speak their language without experiencing racism. So that's another thing that I really want to try to bring into the music and use my platform for, hopefully someday, is like, you have to respect people's culture and love people's culture, and no one should feel ashamed for their language and for who they are. And obviously I have white privilege, and I want to use that to further people that don't have that privilege.
Yeah, I agree completely. It does seem very much lost, where people do kind of move to the US or Canada, and they try to basically become super English speaking to the point where they forget, or their kids don't even speak their language like fluently, because they're trying to teach them more English. And it's like, why not both? I mean, you know, it's cool to be able to do both, but don't completely, you know, scrap what you came equipped with, right?
For sure.
Because I come from an area like in Toronto where there's so many cultures, so you get the best of everything. And you do find that in certain areas where, especially certain ethnicities, I feel like they kind of, forget their own culture and try to adapt too much and assimilate, like you said, almost to a fault, where it's a shame, that's like, it's great to want to understand people that don't speak your language and try to learn English and everything, but keep both, you know what I mean? Because it's a shame to lose that culture.
I'm definitely with you. So I'm hoping that my music can, because it does have that, or our music, sorry, that our music can use sort of an educational aspect almost, because since it is such proper Spanish that we're using in the songs, I am hoping that it'll transfer to an educational platform in a way. I'm still in touch with a lot of my Spanish teachers and sending them the songs and hoping that they'll be able to use them in curriculum and stuff even. Because I just think it's an amazing language, and it should be circulated, and it's so fun to dance to. That's why John loves making the Latin music too. All of his melodies are like, they just make you want to move and be happy and be in the moment. So
God knows people could use that right about now.
Oh,
I mean, with everything going on, it's so insane.
It is,
for sure.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, what topics does your music usually cover? Is there certain like subjects that you guys tend to stick to, or just whatever the mood strikes?
There is sort of an overlying theme that I didn't realize was going to come through until we started making multiple songs. But it is a lot about being in the present and feeling empowered to say what you want to say. So most of the songs are about when you're in a dark place, always looking for the light and never being apologetic, and finding what you have to say and then empowering yourself through what you have to offer as an individual.
That's awesome.
That is.
And one's about coffee. One song's about coffee.
And then there's one song about coffee.
Hey man, we can all relate to that.
Which I'm loving my homemade pumpkin spice latte by Nespresso right now, if they are listening and want to sponsor me.
Oh my gosh, yes. I mean, I actually have my coffee here, and it's the International Delight Oreo. I got a hold of it, and I, made coffee for both of us.
Ooh.
Because the Oreos are like my favorite cookie, and it's like, I saw they have pumpkin spice, and I'm like, I need to get a hold of that.
I think you need to have some whipped cream on top and then crush up the Oreos in a Ziploc and then sprinkle the Oreo cookie on top.
Oh my goodness, don't do this to me.
But yeah, one of our songs is called Cortadito, which is the Cuban coffee where it has espresso and then a layer of sugar and then milk.
Oh.
And so the song is about when you meet someone that makes you want to wake up in the morning, because that's what my coffee does for me.
That's awesome. And I love that, because that coffee sounds awesome, because
oh my God, yes.
I'm like that. I need enough caffeine to kill an elephant, you know what I mean? Just to get me going.
Oh yeah, that's me too. It's because I work a lot of night shifts in my industry too. It's like I go to work with my coffee, and then partway through the night I make one or a tea, and it's like, I remember one of my coworkers the other night, he's like, how many coffees have you had today? And I'm like, not enough, Mike. So that's awesome.
That's a super, super cool part about making the Spanish music too, is there's so much culture to pull on. And like the cortadito, like that's sort of something that is home to the Cuban people, and that's their favorite coffee. And people in Miami, like everyone knows the cortadito. So to be able to use that like fun word in one of our songs, I was really excited and inspired. And another one of our songs is inspired by Frida Kahlo, who feminist icon, Mexican painter, married to Diego Rivera. And her life was so challenging, and she always had this bright and positive and energetic persona, and she fought for everything that she believed in, and she created all this beautiful art. And that's definitely something that I want to channel through the songs, is like, no matter what you've gone through or what you will continue to go through, like that's life, and sometimes you just have to be positive and allow yourself to free yourself from all of the things that hold you down.
Absolutely. And I feel like that's important for people to really grasp, because I feel like there's way too many people that just give up on themselves so easily these days and have nothing to look forward to. And it's crazy to me because, you know, I've said time and time again that if you think back to childhood, learning how to ride a bike, for example, how many times did you fall and get scraped up? But you knew you were eventually going to get it figured out. You never decided, okay, maybe I just aren't meant to, you know, maybe I'm not meant to ride a bike or something. I'll find something else to do. You know, there was never a time where that crosses your mind. You eventually get it. So the persistence pays off. But somewhere down the line, it seems like people just forget that. And then they just try to write everything off as like, okay, maybe it's just not for me. Maybe I'm not meant to do this. I'll find something else that I'm good at. And it's like, you don't get good at anything by just attempting it once. You have to, like, you would know, you know, learning another language the way you did so perfectly. It's like, that didn't come overnight. I'm sure of it. You know, you probably had to put in some serious work to study that.
Yeah, there's definitely a learning curve with everything. So I hope that people are able to hear the music and listen to themselves. And I'm totally with you about how hard it is and how sad it is that a lot of young people, especially with the way that things are socially now with social media, and you're always comparing yourself to someone else. So
Yeah.
it's hard to get back to that sort of core place and be confident and be empowered. And I hope everyone can find that. Confidence is like the most important thing you can have through your life, and just knowing that you are who you are, and that's something to be celebrated.
Exactly. And you're right, with social media especially, it seems like everything's a competition. If you have anything going on that's working for you and someone sees it and they're not there yet, they get bitter rather than being happy for you or chasing that same goal. It's almost like they just quit, like, okay, well, it worked for you and not for me. But people don't really pay attention to how much effort went into that. They think everything's an overnight thing, and it's just not. You know, it's not the case at all.
For sure. But art is such an amazing outlet. So I think a lot of people need a lot more creativity and art in their life, and making music and whatever sort of art you can find is one of the most special things to me, and something that's really changed my life and that I've been able to carry with me for so long. And I can't imagine who I would be, and same thing for John, without this artistic element and this outlet and somewhere to say the things you need to say and feel the things you want to feel.
Absolutely. I love art. Anyone that knows me knows that. Like, you know, I was a tattoo artist at one point. I do a ton of drawing, things like that. I feel like everything's art. I love cooking. To me, that's an art form in and of itself.
Yes.
And so I think it's like therapy to me. You know, it just calms me down. And like, I have the gym for when I'm like, I need that aggressive type therapy. And then when I just kind of want to, like, you know, forget everything, I'll just sit and draw. And before I know it, it'll feel like 20 minutes. And before I know it, like 4 or 5 hours have gone by. And I wasn't thinking about anything except for what I'm working on. And I think there's a lot to be said for it. I think it just mellows people out. And creativity is so important. And I feel like, again, because of technology now, it's being lost on kids. I don't think they get as much encouragement to go out and do something, use your imagination, go do something. It's all like video games and
they don't do anything.
Right.
I went to visit my hometown a while back ago in Boston, where every day we're on the streets playing kick the can, street hockey, baseball. And I went around the neighborhood, there wasn't one kid, not one kid on the street. This is the weekend. I'm going, what the frig's going on, man?
Yeah.
He's playing the video games.
It's nuts, because when I was a kid, like, we were out first thing in the morning playing street hockey, and we didn't come in until you couldn't see the ball anymore because it's so dark. You know, it was
anymore
every day, you know, and you're right. And now it's just so forgotten. Everything's technology based, and it's so sad.
It is. It's like, and if you see kids outside, everyone like scratches their head and looks at you like you have 10 heads. Like, what the heck are these kids doing out here? Like, you know, like they're playing, like instead of just sitting on their butts and just hitting a tablet screen or playing a video game. It's sad, really.
There's such a loss of human connection that's going to happen too in that generation. Mm-hmm. And so we need that art and that creativity more than anything, because otherwise this connection is going to be lost. And unfortunately, at some point, I feel like that generation is too far gone, and we sort of have to, as our generation, be the protectors and create art and create music and create things that are on a virtual level, some sort of connector. And I don't know. I think that's one solution at least.
I agree. It's a scary thought, but I started to think, what if, you know, we've always had that starving artist kind of scenario where artists, no matter how talented they are, they struggle to make any money off of it. And I thought, what if it's getting so bad now with the lack of creativity that one day art becomes like a trade, where it's so high in demand for somebody that knows how to do something creative that they start making all this money because it's now appreciated because there's such a lack of it. You know, it's a scary thought, but it might be kind of, you know, what it needs at the same time.
Yeah. You have to commodify yourself and know your worth at some point as an artist too.
Absolutely. And
what you're doing is super smart. With the fashion, I looked into it a little bit, and that's just an amazing avenue for people to express themselves. I think that's something that's becoming a lot more popular as a means of self-expression, especially in the social media era, where people are able to use fashion and photography to embody who they want to be. So good for you, man.
Oh, thanks so much.
Good.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, you know, for me, it's just another outlet of drawing and designing things, and it got me learning digital art. Because I'm so old school when it comes to art, I always hated digital art. I was like, oh, that's, you know, cheating. And then when I got into it, I was like, dude, this is really difficult. Like, this is its own talent. So I have a respect for it now that I maybe didn't have in the beginning, because I was stuck in my ways, and now digital art was becoming such a thing. And because it looks so good and so perfect, I thought, oh, that's easy. Anyone can do that. Until you try it, then it's like, oh my God, this is like a new learning experience all on its own. So it gave me an opportunity to figure that out, because when it comes to technology, like, I blow. I don't know anything.
That's why I have a job.
That's right.
So. I know, I was going to say, they were on the street playing street hockey, and Blue and I were waking up to watch Power Rangers. So.
Yeah, you know.
Who wins now, boys?
Oh.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, it's she grew up with that, you know, because she's younger than I am in that sense. I grew up in the 80s, so, you know, it was, I don't think it was really geared toward my age at the time. I think I just missed out on that. I was too busy outside just playing any sport imaginable, and, you know, being boys, it always ended up in violence. We just beat the hell out of each other, just play fighting all the time. You know, everything turns into, you know, you play hockey, it becomes hockey fights. You play football, it becomes, you know, brawling on someone's front lawn, like pissing off the neighbors, I'm sure.
Oh, God.
So, well,
never.
Was that?
It's never too late to watch the Power Rangers. That's all I'm gonna say.
Damn right. How did you and John collaborate and, you know, cross paths to create the band and make the music? Was it through Power Rangers?
Was it after Power Rangers? Yeah. Long after.
Oh. So you guys were both involved with Power Rangers? Sorry,
No.
She was probably very young at the time. I was doing it. It was 92, 93, I forget. I don't know. Were you born yet?
Yeah, I was actually born. Oh, sorry. Duh.
I was born in 93, so I didn't start watching until probably 96.
Okay.
I thought a lot of the show's fans, my kids were never into it, and they'd come to set all the time, but they were really never into it. But a a lot of the fans were like guys in their 30s. It was crazy that I never would think to be watching the show, you know?
I think I kind of know why they were watching it. There's a couple actresses on there, the original Pink Ranger.
Yeah. I did the original cast. I don't know. It's changed cast so many times.
Oh my goodness. Like, I remember so many seasons when I was younger. I was really into Mighty Morphin, and then it went to Zeo. And then I think by the time it hit Turbo, and of course there was the Ninjetti and all that, I was kind of like, I don't like this. And I disappeared. And then, growing up in that. And then I just kind of keep tabs on that. Yes, and I am a huge nerd in that. I did not see the original movie in theaters. I got it actually as a gift for Christmas on VHS. I did see the new one in theaters, so. And
the original movie was a disaster because they didn't hire any of the crew that did the show to go make the movie.
Oh.
Except for my stunt guy. So they had people that didn't know what to do and spent a lot of money getting costumes that weren't even the right costumes. They had to remake everything because the director, no one did the homework. What they should have done is gave us a break from the show and went to do the movie, have the same crew, but they didn't do that.
No,
I mean, the minds at work.
So I'm going to safely assume you hate the movie, the new movie.
I've never even seen it.
Oh.
I think I only watched a couple of episodes of the show. I mean, I had to edit it, but other than that, I really didn't watch it. Especially didn't watch the movie.
No, I mean, to be honest, you weren't missing too much. I remember I saw it and I'm like, I don't like this. This sucks. Because I'm, like I said, I'm such a hardcore.
People didn't make it. The people, my stunt coordinator went over there doing, I think it was one of the line producers that went, but the director and the creative people that weren't the creative people, so they had no idea. I don't think some of them watched the show. They were just kind of guessing, They're
just basically handed the script and said, here, make this movie. So they're kind of like, given to make something from nothing, basically. And
yeah, exactly. My fight coordinator, Jeff Pruitt, had to tell the director, hey, that's not the right kind of style helmet we're using, you know what I mean? So they had a bunch of problems.
Whoa.
Well, what?
With shows like that, I feel like they should bring in some super fans and have the super fans sort of give a rundown to the creative crew, because those things are such classics and there's a literal cult that follows them. It's the same thing with your Action USA movie, John. It's like people that are big fans, they know the ins and outs of it. And
I remember times the prop department would give me a weapon or a new gadget on the set and say, you got to work this into the script. I had a pop up. Hold on.
Yeah, I did too. Sorry.
I said, okay. So okay. I had a lot of times they'll give me a new gadget and they'd say, work it into the script. So speaking of super fans, we always had a group of kids that would hang around the studio till we wrapped the day. They wanted to get autographs and all this stuff. So prop department would hand me this thing. I literally would go outside, ask a bunch of 10-year-olds, what we guys do with this? And they'd take it and do all the stuff with it and figure out how to use it. And I'm like, great. And I'd go in there and that's how I do it,
There you go.
I love that story, John.
10-year-olds are running the show.
I think that's so great. Kids have the best imagination.
They do. Yeah, exactly.
And plus, like you said too, like I know that's the primary demographic. I mean, I'm going to be 30 in November and I'll still kind of watching that. Yes, when it was on Netflix, I remember just binging on it, but that's smart, get, the perspective of children and their creativity. Like, how would they use this, like you said, this gadget and that, and then incorporate it in the show? So then I guess the kids feel more involved and they can relate a lot easier.
Right.
Are you a Scorpio November or Sagittarius
November? Yes,
I'm
a Scorpio.
You're a Scorpio November. Okay.
Yeah. I sure am. So.
Okay, so we totally got sidetracked, but John and I met. I actually came in to audition for him at a recording studio to do backing vocals, and he was working with a different vocalist, Natasha Rumbos. And I came in for the audition, and that was the first time that he had heard me sing live. And he basically, from that moment, was like, do you want to collaborate? Do you want to be in a band together? Do you want to work together? And it all set off from there. And yeah,
That's awesome.
That is. It's, you know.
I like to say the Spanish for A Star is Born, Estrella y Nacido, because I am so grateful to John that he's been able to help me realize these dreams. As an artist, sometimes you're working for so long and striving for the same thing and developing your craft and doing the best that you can and going to as many auditions as you can. And sometimes it doesn't matter about the talent. It's just not panning out. You're not the right look. You're not in the right place at the right time. For me, I'm living in Florida, and I wasn't ready to move to Los Angeles or New York, which are the big hubs in the US, to pursue acting or singing. And so it's just been an amazing experience meeting John and having him lift me up and believe in my talent and believe in our band and create this super collaboration.
Yeah, it's so important, because I feel like a lot of people get really discouraged because no matter how much they put in the effort, sometimes it's just the weirdest scenarios that cause almost like you just didn't quite, you know, it's like you're paralleling that you know eventually you're going to make it. It's just, you know, there's always something that doesn't work out. You didn't get the right people that are in a position to kind of take notice. Or so I always feel like if I find somebody that I think has talent, I'll give them an opportunity, because I know so many people. A friend of mine's daughter really wants to be a horror movie makeup artist. And I know so many people in that industry that I'm like, I can ask questions while they're on my show to, you know, what advice they would give you, where to get your start, you know, where to put in the work, you know, because it might surprise you. It's just a matter sometimes of the right eyes seeing your work. And that's all it takes, you know, and then you get an opportunity. Then it's on you to do what you have to do with it. And, you know, so it's important, I think, to kind of help where you can, because everybody's trying to do something. And if we don't help people, you know, there's so much talent that we could be depriving everybody of, which I think is just insane and super sad. So
yeah, it's
And
definitely who you know in this business. It's not the talent, it's who you know, and timing and connections. You know, one thing leads to another. Be at the right place at the right time, you know?
exactly.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. What were you going to say?
oh no, you're good. John has had to move on from being a stuntman and something that he loved, and then he moved into the director path, and now he was gearing up to be on the beach every day in retirement, but instead he's been this amazing factor and brought up artists like myself and Natasha Rumbos, and he's wanting to work and help these younger artists. So I hope that there are more people out there like John, because it's just been such a luck of meeting him.
Well, thank you for saying that.
It's very true too. It's always a matter of who you know, because that in itself explains why networking is so important. You know, no matter how talented you may be, if nobody, like I've told people before, I know so many extremely talented people that have this mindset of it'll happen for me one day. And like, really? Will it? Okay, well, while you sit on your couch thinking someone's going to come in your front door and notice your talent, I'm going to go out and make things happen. You know, I'm not going to sit here waiting for it, because nothing gets handed to you. If you don't put yourself out there, how's anyone supposed to discover it, right? So it's a shame that some people, they rely too heavily on talent, where they think that because they have talent, it's just going to magically get discovered. But if you don't put it out there, who's going to see it?
Yeah, and you got to take chances. I remember one time I went for audition, not really audition, a meeting for a stunt coordinator on a picture. And as we're talking, I'm like, it was funny because the secretary was sitting out in the other room. I guess she could hear us. Because when I walked out, she goes, "That was so cool." And I was talking to the producer and about the stunts. And I'm like, "Well, who's the director on the picture?" So I should meet you and him to talk. "Well, we don't have one yet. We don't have a director." I said, "Well, okay, well, I can direct it." What? Handed in my reel. By the time I left that meeting, I had the director's job.
Yes.
The whole thing, man. It was funny. And true story, man. So yeah, go for it. Don't be afraid to, you know, put yourself out there. It's like with Sean Penn when they were doing Fast Times at Ridgemont High. He was in this, I think it was a Trans Am or something, and raced onto the lot, and he almost ran a producer over. Or the writer over. I'm sorry, the writer. So guy pen whizzes by him. Anyway, writer goes up to his office, blah, blah, blah. They're holding auditions today. Well, guess who walks in? Same blonde haired guy almost ran him off the road. And it was Sean. And he said, I could do this part. I hang around with these guys. I grew up with surfers. And the writers they said, well, good. Well, you can audition. Let's see what you got. He goes, no, you hire me and I'll show you what I got. Like, you don't want to read the lines? No, you hire me. He didn't read one line. He says, I'll give it to you when you hire me. So they hired him. He got the part.
I love it.
He made him put Jeff Spicoli on the call sheet, not as Sean Penn. You know, the whole movie, he made him call him Jeff Spicoli.
I love it. And, you know, it's funny because I think that in itself attracts people's attention, because that kind of confidence, you must have something to back it up. If you know what you're worth. I think that's really, from a business perspective, I know for myself as a business person, if somebody pitches something to me with that kind of confidence, I'm intrigued immediately.
Absolutely.
Well, I knew Madeleine could sing, but I was having a hard time getting her to sing. So I kind of tricked her into coming to the studio one day. Just come on down, meet Natasha, sing, you know, maybe do some backup, you know what I mean? Get her involved in the process. Because I knew she had it in her, which is, we talked for almost a year, I think, something like that, maybe longer, to get her to come down and actually write, you know, to write some lyrics. But as soon as she did, as soon as she opened her mouth, I started playing the guitar. I said, just sing something in Spanish. And I said, it doesn't matter what, just think of a melody. And I said, go back and go write some lyrics to that. And within a week, we had our first song.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's something I think you can probably appreciate, Keith. So as an artist, sometimes it is hard to take that next step and evolve as an artist. So I always saw myself as this musical theater actress, and that's what I was pursuing, and that was my art. And I had evolved a little bit, because when you want to do something, you have to find a way to do it. So for a while in my hometown down here, I was starting to be a drag king. So I would dress up like a guy and do lip syncing just because I wanted to be performing so bad. And I had a lot of gay male friends that were drag queens. And so I started doing that. But when John was trying to get me to write songs, I was like, I did have that confidence issue. I was like, I'm not sure if I have something to say or if I'm able to write along with just a melody. And I had to evolve, and John definitely pushed me there and showed me that I can do it. And now I love doing it. It's like my favorite thing to do is sit down and write these lyrics and figure out the verse. And it's like a puzzle that I want to sit and do all day. So
you're absolutely right. You know, evolving is such an important aspect. I mean, that's how I went from doing just everything by hand to digital art. Even though I was so against it at first, it's like, okay, try it out. And it's like newfound respect for it. And now I can do both. And, you know, I used to do a lot of painting, draw something and then paint it. And now I use like Copic markers where they're like $8 a marker. They're so expensive, but they're so worth it because it looks like a comic book if you use them properly.
So cool.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you about, speaking of the background behind you. I don't have my glasses on, but it looks really cool.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, digital art. I threw that together within minutes.
Well, that's not, it looks like you're in like a real warehouse or something.
Yeah, see, it's something I learned pretty quickly when I started my clothing line, and I really got into it. And now I make all my own backdrops, things like that. And I have.
Do you need one for Juliana? We need one.
Yeah, anytime. We
need a. I haven't even talked to Madeleine about this, but someone else, we did a show the other day, I forget where it was, but they say, oh, we did a live performance show. They said, we need a backdrop, which is true. We do need one. We haven't really played out yet, but we definitely need one when you play up. But we need a backdrop, something cool, you know, with Juliana on it to put behind us when we're doing interviews or playing for these podcasts and live events, you know.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do it. Let me know what you have in mind, and I can run with it. I love doing it. It's so much fun. Sometimes it's a mood that I'm in where I don't want to do like hand-drawn stuff. I just want to do digital art because it's pretty forgiving. You know, there's always that undo button if you don't like what you've done. So, you know, you get that corner cutter that once in a while. But
I don't talk to you on that. She's a creative one with that kind of stuff. But yeah, it'd be cool.
Yeah, sounds great, man. I'd be happy to do it. I love doing stuff like that.
Artists have to help artists.
Right. I always have people that see my art that I've drawn and they're like, do you sell this? I'm like, no, I won't take your money, dude. Like, it's yours if you appreciate it. I just do it kind of mellow out. I can't justify charging other people for my therapy. You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense to me. It's like, hey, man, if it means that much to you, you can have it. Like, I'm glad you appreciate it. So I always love excuses.
Please, no. Empower yourself and ask for money.
It's just not like my field. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a dude that gets punched.
We're going to pay you, Keith.
Take it.
I get punched in the face for a living, and then I do my business stuff, and now I'm doing this. So, art for me is just kind of like a fun thing that, if people dig it, that's cool. But, I end up just chucking it usually otherwise.
And I get so mad at him. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. No, it sucks. I'm like, what the heck? I remember actually he made me a picture, like it was a scene from Friday the 13th, part 9, Jason Takes Manhattan. And it's like one of the most famous scenes. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so amazing. He just did it just because. And I love it so much. It's hanging out proud for me to see every day.
Well, that's the thing, when you have like a ton of friends that don't do art, they always are like, can you do this for me or do that for me? And then it gets to a point where you just know what they're into. You don't have to be asked. It's just like, I feel like doing this and this person would appreciate it, so it's yours. But it was just one of those excuses to use my markers.
That's so cool, Keith. But so I want to tell John, because I doubt that he knows, but John, on Zoom calls now, you can create a Zoom background. So that's not even a painted background. He did all of that digitally and inputted it. It's like having your own green screen right on your computer.
Sure. Yeah, I thought they were sitting in a warehouse at first.
Hard times. Filming out of an abandoned warehouse. But that's what I was going for. I love the look of it.
Oh, that's a good look, though. Yeah, nothing. We did a video in front of a graffitied wall,
See, and I'm such a graffiti freak that's what I was going for. Is I wanted something that really displayed that, because I think it's such an underrated form of art. When it's done right. If it's just like garbage that somebody had a spray can and too much time on their hands, that doesn't do it for me. But when it's actual art, with talent, I think that's
nice colors and stuff.
Yeah, really underrated. It's eye-catching, and I love it.
You two should definitely make a trip down to South Florida. They've redone this industrial part of Miami, and it's called Wynwood now. I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but they've taken graffiti to the next level, and they've roped off a lot of the graffiti and murals, and the whole district is full of just public art. And there'll be people with their spray cans out all the time.
Oh, I love it, because I've been to Miami, and
me too.
I love that. That sounds awesome. To me, it's a lot better than just like brick walls and just, it looks
concrete jungle.
Yeah, it needs something, and I think that's what it's lacking. And again, like I said, when it's done properly, I think it adds so much value to it.
For sure. It can be so elevated. It's someone's art. It's a part of them, and graffiti has such a bad rap.
Right. And there's always people that will cause that to perpetuate, but then you look at like Banksy, for example, that got ridiculous real fast, where they're like chiseling out pieces of wall and selling it for millions. It's like, really? And this guy doesn't see a dime because nobody knows who it is, but he doesn't see any of that money. It's like, it's absurd that it went from being a crime to a capitalist thing. Like, there's always a way to turn that into like,
oh yeah.
But that sounds gorgeous. Like Miami, I think that's awesome. I think that's the coolest idea. I think they're onto something with that.
For sure.
It preserves the art and shows an appreciation instead of just, like you said, just people being vandals and just defacing public property. And that it's like, this is like their artistic expression, and let's appreciate the hard work and creativity that went into it.
Yes.
It takes extreme talent too, and it's not a cheap art form.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
When you get like all those colors, I mean, each can of spray paint costs quite a bit, and then there's you can buy caps now that you put on top of the cap, so it has different size nozzles, so you can get finer lines. I think most people do it the old school way, just with distance, but now it's made a little easier for people to learn with these nozzles that have different size holes to make thicker or thinner lines, and maybe more of a spray for shadowing and stuff like that. It's really cool.
So cool. People might think that I'm a graffiti artist based on my garage because I do have a big box of spray paint in there. Because I'm a costume creator and I was doing drag for so long and going to different events, and I like to create costumes. I love spray painting clothes, shoes, everything. For one of John and my videos, we were up against that graffiti muraled wall, and I wanted my whole outfit to be orange. So I had the orange dress, the orange nails, orange accessories, and then I had some old shoes. I was like, it's going to happen. I spray painted the shoes orange.
That's awesome.
That is. I actually did that for Halloween one year. It was red though. It was a devil costume I had. I was like, okay, I was in elementary school and I'm like, I want to be a devil for Halloween. So Mom and I like bought just white sequin shoes and just spray painted it. It was so much fun. She actually let me go to the garage and spray painted it. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love artistic expression through costuming and fashion. It's the best.
I really want to get into airbrushing. I think that is super cool.
Yes. Very cool art form.
Yeah.
Like the guy on Counting Cars.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different methods to use that with. I knew a guy that used to create basically almost like horror makeup, or like the busts of heads and things, and he would spray paint, like airbrush them, and so much detail. It looks so cool. It looked like something they would use in a horror movie, like super high budget. He put in crazy amounts of work and had such a blast doing it, and he was so skilled with it. I was like, that's a new art form that I want to get into.
Super cool.
Yeah, it's like the detail you can get out of it is insane. And then, yeah, doing cars and stuff like that, you could get some crazy looks on cars with just an airbrush.
And the one cool thing about that, it makes it one of a kind. It's like you can't replicate it. It's like, this is it, and it's the only one there ever will be. You'll never replicate it exactly. So I think that individuality is like quite an attractive piece, and it's just like, it's mine. I made this, and I'll never be able to replicate it exactly again.
So unique. I love how all of us have different avenues of art that we all love. It's really fun to have these conversations with fellow artists. So
yeah, it's a rarity for me. I don't really come across too many people that, are so into art that they really understand it. So it's always nice to be able to find somebody that's like-minded like that really gets it. And to your point too, even with like my markers, they're alcohol based, so they're blendable. So you get like different shades of a color and you blend them into each other seamlessly. So it makes it really hard to like replicate what you did before, because it's just kind of like, you don't know the ratio or anything. It's just like, I did this, and you can look at it and try to replicate it when someone wants the exact same thing you've already done. But, I was like, man, once you do it and you put it out in the world, it's not yours anymore. You don't really get to do that, and recreate it. So it's kind of cool that it will always look different, lighting and shadowing and everything. And with so many different tones and like shades, you don't even remember what colors you used to make that exact appearance. So it's going to change every time because it'll blend differently every time. And it's what keeps it like fresh, I think, and fun to do, because you can't just recreate it because of the way the markers work. They're going to blend differently every time based on how much you use it and what shades you use, because like they have thousands of shades of colors and they all blend into each other. So you could have like 1,000 different flesh tone colors that they'll all blend into each other.
Wow.
So you go from like light to darker. So there's like a medium in there, and then you go darker, and it'll give you that shadowing effect with all the different shades of shadowing. They all blend seamlessly together, so it looks just like a comic book. It's so much fun. It's a lot of work, but it's just a blast to use them.
So cool. I definitely appreciate visual art. My dad is a visual artist as well. So, and like you're saying with all the blending and stuff, like I'm sure he would love that, because his favorite medium is just charcoal, because he wants to be able to have that blended look. And sometimes it's just black and white is his favorite medium to use. But he's been creating some stuff for Juliana, which has been really fun. When we did the Frida Kahlo video, he did a rendition of Frida Kahlo that I use in the video. So I can definitely appreciate visual art and how much work it takes to hone your skills.
That's awesome. And with these markers too, they have all these shades of gray. So you can do just black and white work and make it.
You'd probably love that.
Yeah, because like you can make it look like a gray wash tattoo that has like all the different shades of gray but no color, and it pops on its own even without the color in it. It just looks so good by itself. It's crazy. There's even like a marker that has no color at all. It's just the alcohol formula to blend better. So you just go over what you have and it'll help them blend even better, more seamless if need be, which is super cool.
Very cool. I was going to recommend a video to you, but I need to look it up quickly. Oh, John, do you want to plug our website and stuff?
Yeah, at the end.
Okay.
Hey, no worries.
Okay, yeah. So I'm sure you're familiar with the Take On Me video where he's walking through the cartoon. And so one of my favorite drag queens, Gigi Good, on RuPaul's Drag Race last year, she did a drag queen's take of Take On Me. But because, wow, I guess COVID was already happening because they had to do the finale at home. Mm-hmm. So she built this entire graphic novel type set, and the pieces, they were drawn in marker. The pieces are coming in and out. It looks exactly like the Take On Me video. Wow. You will love it. Gigi Good, Take On Me. I really recommend you watch it.
Awesome, because I'm an 80s kid, so like I was bombarded with that video when I was a kid too. Like, I get that. So for sure that will be a trip to see, because I thought that was the coolest video at that time, because you never saw anything like that. You know, it was so hand done and everything. I thought that was the coolest concept.
And I guess groundbreaking for the time. So, you know, like it's just all that work that went into it. You definitely appreciate it. I mean, I miss the 80s, unfortunately, because I just born right after it finished. But of course, later on in life, I've seen the video and I'm like, wow, that's amazing.
The 80s were fun. Sunset Strip, Whiskey a Go-Go, good times.
So I've heard.
I was born in 83, so I mean, I didn't have that much, involvement with the 80s, but I certainly, through other people, I've witnessed so much of it, and I loved it, man. I miss it. You know, I was talking to somebody about that on the show. I forget who now. Might have been Scott Page, but I was saying, you know, the thing I missed about that is when you hung out with people, you actually hung out with them. You know what I mean? You didn't have your phone buried, your face buried in your phone.
Exactly.
You had their undivided attention, and if you wanted to know how somebody was doing, you had to pick up a phone and call them. And now it's
phone.
Yeah, you know, like now you don't even call people. It's like you don't, you know, you could look through their social media statuses and be like, okay, I'm all caught up now. I don't even have to talk to the person. It's so stupid. You know what I mean?
It seems like, you know, with today we're like kind of a watcher society. Like, you know, as you were saying, people post everything on social media and we scroll through and be like, okay, yeah, I know what's going on, so I don't have to talk to them. I think we just become antisocial. Like, you know, going back to your point, back in the 80s and even the 90s, you had to physically pick up the phone or go see the person and be like, hey, what's up? How you been? So.
For sure. That is the power of music and live music, though, that I hope that John and I are able to capture with our band pretty soon, is when you're in that moment, when you're at a concert, when you're listening to music, you don't want to be on your phone. You just want to be in the moment and be with the people that you're with. And that's something that I love about live performance that we're really excited about. And something that I think is sort of lost in a lot of modern artists, because there are all of these platforms where you're able to just make videos and distribute your songs. And John and I are definitely the type of musicians and singer who want to be putting on these elaborate live shows and having that live audience and interacting with the music.
Right, because there's so many platforms now. Like you said, it's ridiculous. I mean, SoundCloud, stuff like that, YouTube and things where it's all free. So, I'm glad that there's still musicians that want to do live things and keep that going, because it'd suck if that becomes a lost art too, because we're really rapidly becoming so damn antisocial.
Mm-hmm.
I hope
it never become lost, because everybody wants to go to live music.
Right.
Yeah.
The biggest complaint I'm hearing now is I need to get to a concert, no matter who's playing. They don't care.
Right, which is great to hear, because I feel like hopefully, maybe I'm being way too damn optimistic on this, but hopefully all this madness and this quarantine crap and the closed borders makes people appreciate things like that a little more again and realize what they had before all this and
appreciate it.
Step away from the internet for a minute, and hang out with people like a normal person,
I mean, it's one thing to watch it, on your TV or whatever, but to be there and just in that moment, as you guys are saying, it's so different. And, you carry that memory with you, and it just seems to have a bigger impact than just sitting and watching it on a screen. Actually being there is like something you'll never forget.
Yeah. Being there, you get to hear the music, how we made it, because we spent a lot of time and money in the studio,
mm-hmm.
getting the right bass drum sound, the right snare EQ'd, and all this stuff, and it sounds great. And then people listen to the music on their laptops or their phone. It doesn't sound anything like it. You need to go to a concert to hear how the music was actually made, real players, but real bass guitar sound and bass drum sound and all that stuff. There's nothing like going into an arena and hearing there's drums. You know what I mean? The bass drum, kick drum hitting, and the snare hitting just ringing out. So
exactly. I mean, I talked to Scott Page about that. I talked to Kenny Aronoff about that, and we all agreed, like, anything these days, especially that sounds too polished that you can't recreate live, is just kind of pointless. And you don't get the same sound from like your little laptop speakers or like there's nothing like that until you go and hear everything live, because you're hearing everything as it's intended to sound, and that's lacking with these crappy little like laptop speakers, and your cell phone speakers even worse because it's so mono.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not the same. And I think people can always appreciate that, to be able to go somewhere, hear something live, and hear every bit of it. And it's like nobody's getting, drowned out or cut off by a garbage speaker. It's just irreplaceable, I think.
Yeah, but the majority, that's how they listen to the music now.
It's
on phones, and it's like, why did we go spend 3 hours to get the mix just right? Because you're not going to hear the bass guitar anyway.
Right.
It's a shame. It really is. It's like basically an insult to the musicians themselves. It's like, you create something and it's like it's a half-assed version of it.
Yeah, I cringe when I hear one of our songs on a phone. I'm like, that sounds horrible. And I know it sounds good in the studio because we mixed it and it's great, but I hear it on the phone. I'm like, this is crap,
Right. It's like
it's not the music; it's the speaker.
Right. I mean, it's you wouldn't want to listen to your favorite band through a walkie-talkie, right? So, like, why listen to it through your phone? I understand, like, for me, if I'm in the gym or something, I got to have something. But, when it comes to, like, listening to music for the sake of listening to music, I want to go somewhere and do that live and see, whichever band's live, because there's no way that you're going to get all that from a CD or, garbage speakers. Even if you have a great stereo system, it's just not going to pick up everything.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, we have some good speakers, a good speaker at our rehearsal studio, and when I play some stuff through that, like I couldn't hear Madeleine's, one of her lead high vocals she did on a chorus. I'm like, I mean, it really hits you in the face but this speaker doesn't have the right low end or something to make it stick out,
Right.
If you have good headphones, that helps. But if you're just listening on your phone, I mean, it's so different. That's why I tell everybody, whoever I send music to that I want to listen to it, like to hire us or something, I always say, please listen on your computer with good speakers, don't listen on your phone.
Exactly. And I was telling Aaron off, I was like, man, I'm kind of stoked that vinyls are kind of coming back big time, because I feel like there's certain bands that maybe intended to sound that way, and vinyl probably projects that the best, and it's cool to see that coming back.
Yeah, I heard for the first time since a long time, there was more vinyl sales than CDs.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's becoming a big thing. Like, I think as of maybe 9 or 10 years ago, that really started. And I was starting to see like this influx of vinyl in record stores again. And I'm somebody that I hate downloading everything. I want to buy the actual product, support the artist. And, I want the physical, like the cover and everything, and look through it. And so I hate that everything's so like digital now. But to see all these vinyls coming back, I'm like, oh, that would be really cool to get that and to get this. And, I feel like a lot of bands, that's the intended sound, not something so mass produced. I hate that.
Right. Yeah, everything today is done to a click track,
Yeah.
Sometimes a band will be recording from different states, So, you got to be on the same timeline,
Yeah, you can't just slap it together digitally and expect it to be seamless. It's lacking something majorly that way.
Sometimes I'll play something and I'll hear a mistake and I'll leave it in.
Right.
Not a bad chord, but something I could have played better. Or just something minor, but I'll leave it in just to remind me that it's real. And I could easily fix it, like do one more take, and I'm like, no, let's leave it,
Yeah, I love that. And we were talking about that too on another show, where I feel like that's the general consensus with a lot of musicians, is that people want that. People want something way more raw and in the moment, because you can't recreate something when you're in that moment. You're, like you're doing something that it's just that vibe. Like I'm the same way with drawing and things. I don't want to like come back to my piece tomorrow, because I'm like in a mode, just in this mode where everything's working for me and it's just flowing. Like, I don't want to interrupt that and come back tomorrow and try to get that back. You can't. So I think to record just as you do it organically is you're going to get the best version of that product, because anything after that, you can't recreate it. The moment has passed, basically.
Right. Yeah, to Sabor, I laid down 3 guitar tracks. And Connor, our lead guitar player, Connor Tiner, he did the lead. But I laid down 3 rhythm tracks, and they were all one take. All 3 parts were one take. I didn't go over them at all, It worked. And why keep going over it and try and punch it in? And, it just went from A to Z, and whatever you got, we got.
Yeah, see, and that's awesome, because I think people just know when something is too rehearsed until everything sounds perfect. It's like, you're not going to get that live. You know what I mean?
Right.
If it's edited to death and everything else. And I mean, you play live, you don't get retake after retake. It's just, it sounds how it sounds, and that's what you get. So I think if people get that, even in the recording, it's so much more appreciated, because it feels real. It doesn't feel like, repackaged or mass produced, or disingenuous, and I think that's why people love live music so much. You can't fake it.
Yeah, for sure.
So much is digitized now too, and it's just not translatable. I mean, hearing a digitized electronic guitar is not the same as John banging it out. So
right, and
it's really amazing to find amazing musicians like our band. Sorry to be vain, but to find these amazing talented musicians that are willing to work and want to have that live music feel in a track. Because as a singer, even I thought I was going to have to go that route, make my own instruments, be on GarageBand, or clearly I'm not experienced. What's the other one? No. Anyway, creating my own instruments with a MIDI. I'm like, it doesn't sound the same as having this authentic feeling and those mistakes and everything mixed in together, and all of us as artists working together. It creates a totally different product and something that feels a lot more authentic to who the artist is.
Right.
A lot of times you don't know that some of the shows don't have someone in your in-ears. If some of the musicians don't know the songs, like say at a church venue or something, okay, the chorus is coming up, do a build. They're actually telling you what's coming up, so you don't even have to remember the song. You can sit there and be playing, thinking about whatever you're thinking about, and then, okay, chorus is coming up, okay, you know what I mean? Do a build here, we're coming to the bridge. And you really got to go to rehearsals and know the song, because, and this has happened to me where something, say your monitor's going on, you can't hear, something. You can't hear anybody if your monitor goes up, especially yourself. But if you don't know the song, because technology is great, but it's going to screw up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then getting back to what you're saying, you got to play live and you got to rehearse. You got to know the actual material instead of waiting for somebody in your ear telling you what to do.
Right. I feel like it's comparable to autocorrect, where people are forgetting how to spell.
Yeah.
Because they're relying on it to correct them. They don't even care how to spell things anymore. And,
you're talking about autocorrect. Yeah, okay. Auto-tune.
So it's the same idea.
That's me. Guilty. I'm the worst speller in the world,
It's the same concept.
I would write a script and give it to someone I would write my scripts freehand, because my grammar is horrible, you know what I mean? And just have them, before they had autocorrect back in those days, and they would just take it and fix all my spelling and grammatically put the periods and everything where they should be. But
I feel like that concern was there even with calculators becoming way more popular too back in the day, where it's like, now you're never going to know how to do math in your head because you're relying too heavily on that. And I feel like there's so much validity to that. So to your point, music wise, if you got something telling you every step, you're not going to memorize your own material. And I think that in itself, it's almost like, like you're saying, having a machine produce these sounds, it's like, sure, robots and things like that could probably play amazing guitars and things like that, but they're not going to make people feel anything. That's what they can't. Yeah. I would rather hear a missed chord or a sound that's a little more raw than something super polished that a machine did, because at least I'm going to feel something. A robot or a machine cannot cause that because it has no feeling itself. And I think that's what makes art what it is you can relate. And if it's so digitized, what are you relating to?
Exactly.
So I feel like there's so much value to just keeping it as natural as possible. Yeah, technology is great when it's used the right way, it has its place, but when it's relied on too heavily, I think it just kills art.
I hear you.
Like even when I do digital art, like it doesn't do everything itself. Like I need to have an eye for where shadowing has to be, or what's going to make something pop more and eye-catching and things like that. The computer's not going to tell me that. I have to figure it out. I have to play with it and do, whatever my mind tells me would look best, and go from there and find out how to make it happen. There's no suggestions in digital art. Here, try this to make it look better. It's just like, it's almost like reading another language, because I'm looking at it and I'm like, I don't know what any of this crap means.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I figured out by playing with it. And then once I learn what each thing does, I'm like, okay, here's what I want to do. And then there's plugins that you can download all the time for new effects and stuff like that I get to play with and, you know, get real creative. So it's like learning all over again, which is so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
Because the day, like I told people, you know, the day I stop learning when it comes to art, I don't want to do this no more. You know, the fun in it is constantly improving and learning new things and just dabbling with things until you figure something out.
For sure. Yeah, John and I are going through a lot of that with the creative process. It's really fun to collaborate. And something that I like to joke about is John doesn't know what I'm saying anyway, so I can pretty much say whatever I want.
Saying curse words about him. Oh my goodness.
That's amazing.
But we definitely love to have that vulnerable feel in our music. And the sound engineer that we work with, Miller at Dream Machine Recording here in West Palm, he has gotten to know us enough that he knows that on my vocals, I do not like auto-tune. I don't like it overmixed. Like I have that ear now where I can hear if I hit a wrong pitch and he had to auto-tune it, like we redo it sort of thing. So we want it to have that live music sound to it, and Miller's amazing at capturing that.
I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how it should be, you know, because it's like, again, it kind of feels disingenuous when somebody screws something up or doesn't do it the way they want, and then they just have technology fix it for them rather than conditioning themselves to, you know, get used to doing it that way, the way they intended. It just seems like corner cutting in a way.
And like you were saying, learning new things too. When we're in the studio, I get to improvise so much because working with the sound engineer, he's so talented. We'll come in with the song and I'll record my lyrics, and then he says, oh, you know, I think I hear some melodic like ahs or oohs over this part. Like, what do you think about that? I was like, let's try it. And we do that on so many of the songs. And it's like working with another band member, with our sound engineer, because he's so talented and he's so passionate about making music. Actually owning the studio is just his side project for so many of his other businesses because it's such an outlet for him. And we get to improvise and work with him and create these amazing melodic overlays to all of our songs because he has that vision and he knows what he thinks our sound is evolving into. So that's been such a learning experience too, because every time I go into the studio, I'm like, okay, we've worked on this in rehearsal, and yet I still know that's just the bare bones because Miller's going to want to bring in harmonies here and vocals over this part, and it's really cool. I feel so lucky that we're able to make this music right now, and I hope that you guys listen later and that you like it.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
I intend to. Like, I always, every guest I have, they always have something cool that they've done. So I support my guests. You know, I figure the way I see it, like, my guests are friends of mine, and I support what they do because that's how it should be. I just got a book in the mail from a friend of mine who was the production designer for Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and 4. So I just bought his book because he wrote a book about his experiences doing the movies and all the weird things that happened on set and stuff that nobody knows. And it's got pictures and everything in it. And I was like, dude, this is going to be so cool to read later. And so when he released that, I bought that immediately because it's like, you know, why wouldn't I?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got to support people or else they can't do this stuff anymore. And then that's a damn shame. So I always like to know what people are doing and kind of stay up to date with it. So
it was cool. I worked with Robert Englund, who played Freddy on the Elm Streets on a movie he directed. It was called 976 Evil.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was the first movie I was involved with that they did CGI on it. And it was a funny story in mind because we're talking about riding a bicycle, right?
Yep.
Everybody's going to learn to ride a bicycle. And you don't give up, right?
That's right.
Wrong. We had an actor on that show one of his things was to ride a bike, and guess who was teaching him how to ride a bike? And this guy was in his 20s. I'm like, are you kidding me?
No.
I have to, you know, because as stunt coordinators, sometimes we babysit the actors doing things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But this is ridiculous. He literally had to ride a bike 20 feet to the camera, not falling, not jumping. That's my day off. I have to come in. Robert's like calling me down. You come in there because you got to ride a bike. I'm like, you can't ride a bike? I get to the set. I said, how did you grow up? You never rode a bicycle? What's wrong with you? Get on the damn thing. And I put some pads and knee pads. I'm teaching this guy how to ride a bike, and he's like 22 probably. You know,
Training wheels at the back and kind of hide them from the shotter.
Like, hey, Robert, just turn the camera on. We're going to get a free stunt out of this, man. I'll put some pads on him, you know. Oh, but my back, that was the first movie. I think they really did a lot of CGI on it because they had some visual effects, you know, where their room was on fire. I don't really remember the scene, but I remember seeing a movie. I'm like, this sucks. This looks like shit, man. It was really bad CGI.
Yeah, I love practical effects more so, I think, especially when it comes to horror. It's just the way it's always been. And, you know, I think CGI has its place in certain movies, but horror is not it.
No.
I think practical is always best.
That's what we did. We looked at what you mentioned, the makeup effects. Was it Johnson was his name? I forget. But we did a lot with, you know, monster effects and, you know, where they really put the makeup on you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
7 hours in a friggin' chair. You know what I mean? You have to come in 7 hours before you're going to shoot before everybody else.
Yeah.
But it took all day to get you dressed up for like 2 shots, you know?
Yeah, it's crazy. I know Robert sat for about 8 hours a day doing the Freddy Krueger makeup, and it pissed him off. And rightfully so. I mean, that's got to be annoying, just sitting there for 8 straight hours with brushes in your eye and, you know.
Trying to stay still.
Right. Oh, that would suck.
Some of that stuff, I remember I used to have to make a cast out of you. You'd sit there and it can completely put the plaster all over your face. They give you a straw.
Yep.
Claustrophobic, it sucks because they give you a straw to breathe through, and they literally cover you in plastic till it dries, and then break you apart, you know?
Yeah, I don't know if I could do that. Like, it would probably drive me nuts too. I've seen that done, yeah, with the straw so you can breathe. It's like almost like a snorkel.
Yeah.
And
yeah, for like an hour or something, sometimes longer. Can't move, and I'm like, what the frig did I get myself into?
Right. Yeah, I'm friends with like Ken Sagos from Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and 4, and the production designer Mick Strawn, and a bunch of other people. So I get a lot of weird stories about stuff like that, and you know, the things that people go through. It's insane. You know, but it's that commitment to the product with the with those effects, whereas I feel like CGI it's not as rewarding, you know, because you know they put themselves through some shit to do these things.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, with CGI it just I don't know, it's not organic. If you know, like I said, it has its place if you want to do like a Bruce Willis movie or something, but you know, for horror I think practical's like best.
Yeah, we did a thing on Action USA where I had fallen up a 16-story building, and I had a camera on a cable. I wanted to follow the stunt guy all the way down till he hit the ground, no cuts. And so I built scaffolding, probably 2 stories up, and then we had a crane put a car up there and a motorcycle, and I had 2 other stunt people, guy and a girl, make it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the street was made out of styrofoam and painted black. And the object was to come, like, you know, camera had the camera angle, so it would fall. I don't know if you can see me, fall all the way down, past the people in the car, and the camera could see the ground. And it hit the ground, and the airbag obviously is under the styrofoam.
Right.
So my cutting point would be when he hit the ground, but there was going to be no other cuts in the shot. So they built everything. The art department was there, you know, I think the day before, building all this stuff. And the day we shot, it was Waco, Texas, and it was windy as hell. So I kept blowing the styrofoam.
Oh no.
So all that work, and And then I had my camera falling down, so we didn't get the shot because the street wouldn't say. So my alternative was I did the shot. He went to the bag. Then I got a car. I rigged the windows with explosives. I put the camera up on the second story, or third story rather. I had him jump again out of the second story and land on the car. And he hit the car. The windows exploded. So I didn't get my dream shot, but I tried, you know.
Yeah, and that's the thing with doing movies like that too, is there's always those weird elements that just kind of screw everything up sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, someone on the fan website for the movie, I put some of those pictures. That's what reminded me of behind the scenes, and I'm like, oh yeah, the scaffolding and a car and all that up there. What a bunch of work for, you know, it didn't work, you know.
Yeah, I mean, that I always love books like that. I think that's an immediate like bestseller when somebody has that experience and is able to put a book together if they had the archive pictures and stuff from and remember all the things that happened when they were doing the movie. I think a lot of people really dig that kind of thing because you know, there's always some fascinating stories that come with, you know, the things that you have to go through just to pull these things off to make them look as good as possible.
I did a movie in Yugoslavia once when the Yugoslavian war was starting, and the shit that happened in that movie was better than the movie. Literally, we were driving from Belgrade to Dubrovnik, what do you call it? In the friggin' we were stopped by soldiers on our buses. We had tour buses back then with our crew going from city to city there. And they literally come on and after working with these guys for 6 months, took them out to go fight. I have no idea if these guys were killed or ever see them again. It was insane.
That's insane.
Oh, whoa.
I was dubbed on David Essex, and we walked out of our hotel. Hey, Dave, what's going on? Walking up the street, kaboom, they blew up the hotel behind us.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So many stories. And then one time I smoked at the time, this is many years ago, and I was smoking. We were shooting in this underground cave on the border of Titograd, which is all gypsies and craziness, fighting going on. And it was a huge cave. So I'm going out to have a cigarette. We're in between takes, and I'm walking down, what do you call one of the canals in the cave, and an explosion went out outside, and the lights went black. I mean, the cave went black.
Oh.
So I went down the wrong entrance.
Oh, no.
I walk out, and there's a Russian MiG going by, and 3 soldiers there with guns, pointing the guns at me.
Oh my.
And because I have long blonde hair, I'm in a ski jacket in the middle of a war going on, and I was smoking Marlboro cigarette at the time, and it was there must have been 17-year-old, 15, 16-year-old soldiers.
Wow.
They're pointing a gun at me, and I'm like, Cascadero, Cascadero. Thank God I spent a year over there on 2 different movies, but I didn't know the language. But I knew some words, you know. And in Russian, Cascadero means stunt guy. I'm sure Madeline's spot checking it right now. And so they didn't shoot me, and they seem like I have a cigarette. Oh, give me a cigarette. I'm like, okay, oh yeah, I have a cigarette. So by the time, and I was directing this movie, I was second unit on this. So I was being held for like 2 hours, and like, where's the director? We went to have a cigarette. We'll go find him. He's not around. By the time they found me, at first I was held at gunpoint. Then by the time they found me, I'm sitting there having a couple of cigarettes, posing for pictures with the guys. Soldiers. And there's Russian MiGs still going over. We were on top of a mountain with this cave let out, and there's Russian MiGs going by and us bombing something down below. And I'm calling my camera guy. You get the camera guy out. I'm shooting this stuff, you know, with the 2C cameras, you know, as it's Russian MiGs. I remember we got a shot. He was so close, we seen the pilot. You know, this is back when you didn't see Russian MiG, before Top Gun and all this stuff, you know? Like, this is better than the movie. I said, get the cameras out here.
Why not?
Then they wanted to arrest me for propaganda because I was giving the soldiers Marlboro cigarettes. They called that propaganda. It was crazy. And that's only a few stories. This movie was full of them. It was nuts.
You should have got on the phone and demanded more money. Hazard.
That's another story.
Oh.
At the very end of the movie, the producers were from England, and they paid everybody up to front, but I heard they ran out of money. And this was an expensive movie. So I heard that no one was going to get their last paycheck for the week. So we finished shooting. I took all the film from that week, put it in my hotel room, locked it up. At the wrap party, we said, you better come over here with cash, not checks, cash, because we heard you're running out of money. So the producer sent someone from England to come over with $100 bills, paid everybody in cash. I gave him his film for the last week's shooting back. Then I basically go through customs, taping money to me and my wife at the time, because you can only bring 10,000 over there, you know. So we're going through the airport, money tape for us, you know. That at the end of the movie.
Oh my gosh. Imagine if they actually did a strip search and they see all this like $100 bills strapped to you. It's like, what were these people doing?
I know. I have long hair. I totally probably look like a drug dealer at the time, you know.
Oh boy.
I'm so ready to go home after that experience, man.
That's insane.
But everybody but I didn't want to see the crew get screwed. You know what I mean?
Right.
So everybody got paid their last weeks. And you know, they weren't thieves, but movies go over budget and they run out of money. You know, that happens all the time. James Cameron never made any money for directing Titanic and went over budget, and he gave his salary. He never made a penny off that movie. So I just didn't want them to, we'll send it to you, we'll owe it to you. No, I want the crew to get paid, especially for the locals over there, because they're hardworking, you know, people. Their average salary is $40 a month at the time. You know what I mean? A month. Wow. So, and I was told by the government how much I could pay these people. And I said, I'm not paying them $40. Are you crazy? Yeah, the government say, no, you can't pay him $500 a day, which stunt guys were making at the time in America. So it was just a lot of crap that went on. So I just want to make sure they got paid. And so I held the film hostage, literally the film, the can, they come out of the camera hostage. I said, someone opened England with some money and you get your film back.
Well, that's admirable.
Wow.
You know,
yeah.
I think that's cool because there's not a lot of people that look out for other people like that. And I feel like, you know, things do happen, sure, but you put in the work, you should be compensated for it, you know.
Right.
That was the agreement. So them going over budget, you know, I get that happens, but it's not the actor's fault or the, you know, stunt people's fault.
Or crew.
So they shouldn't have to get screwed, you know.
Well, when I was originally going over there, I remember reading the script on the airplane. I was just hired as the stunt coordinator. And I was literally reading it and said, oh, this had everything in it. It was one of the Merlins. It had, you know, Sword and the Sorcerer. It had everything. I'm like, this is a stuntman's dream. I said, I would love to be directing this thing. So I went over there, and it happened that the director was one of the financiers, and he didn't really like to direct. He was a writer too. So he hired me to direct the car chase. Now, I was only originally supposed to be there for 2 weeks to direct this car chase. So I did my deal, directed the car chase, and I had a lot of Russian stunt guys, which are great. We're in dailies, and he's sitting back and watching it, and I don't know, they didn't have it edited, they just show him the dailies. He stands up, he goes, John, I'm going back to England. You're taking over directing this movie. He left that day. I had no preparation. I mean, I read the script, but I was only directing my scene. He literally went back to England that next day, and I took over director on the movie.
Whoa.
Things do change that quickly, though. You know, in that industry, it's nuts.
I had 6 months to do the movie. I had the best Panavision cameras at the time in the business. I had the best studio over there. I'm like, 6 months? I can make 3 movies in 6 months. What do I need 6 months for this movie for? But okay, I can take my time for once. I was used to doing movies in 3 weeks, you know. But the thing is, I couldn't get a roll of gaffer's tape.
Oh.
It's the little stuff like that. Best cameras in the business, best everything, but I couldn't get like a roll cage for a car or literally gaffer's tape, I think it was. It was nuts. And we didn't speak the language, but it was funny. My whole crew, they were mostly from over there. So we knew what each other was saying, even though we didn't speak the language. You know what I mean?
That's crazy.
It was nuts.
My God.
I kept saying, they should make the movie. We should have filmed the behind the scenes stuff. It would have been better than the movie, you know?
Right.
Oh, I can imagine.
I think that's why now there's so many like DVD extras and things like that, because there's such gold that you can catch if you're expecting, you know, to film everything.
Well, that's what they're doing on Action USA, I did it in 1988. Well, they're re-releasing it November 6th in the theaters and all the digital platforms. And they call me. They're doing a like a special Blu-ray edition, you know, a numbered edition. They're also doing a VHS release.
Wow.
That's nuts. For the hardcore.
I love that.
Not even has a VHS machine anymore, but they're actually doing a VHS release along with the Blu-ray edition and all this stuff. So it's crazy.
I love that. I don't even have a VCR, but still, it's cool.
Me neither. I actually saw one in use for the first time in years. I was at work, and we have the TVs and that, and there was a movie. I'm like, oh, and it was Miracle on 34th Street, believe it or not, the original one. I'm like, why the heck is there a Christmas movie on TV? And then I looked over, and I'm like, because there was a VCR there. I figured they just left it there or whatever. And I'm like, oh, it's a tape. I'm like, well, I haven't seen that in ages.
Yeah. You used to have to rent videos at the store and then rewind them. Remember that?
Yes,
Yep.
yes, I remember that.
Yeah, always. And then if you didn't rewind it, you get hit with a fee.
Easy way to make money back. It's like, oh, didn't rewind it, so I have to charge you that $1 or whatever they charged back in the day.
Hell, I remember when auto tracking became like a blessing to have. You didn't have to sit there and play with it yourself, trying to get it to come in proper.
Mm-hmm.
I got a DVD player hooked up to my TV now. I don't know how to use it. Plugged in there. My wife always goes, "Hey, let's watch a movie tonight," because I guess you got a million DVDs. I'm like, I can't figure out how to use that stupid thing.
Oh gosh. It happens. It's funny. I remember when I was still living at home, that was like we had a Blu-ray player, the DVD player. We had the, I think it was Xbox 360 at the time. My dad would be like, you know, hey, we want to watch a movie. Can you hook it up? And I'm like, oh my God, again, you know, switch the wires here and put the button there. And it's like there. I'm like, you good? Yeah, wait, how do I put? Ah! It's like now everything's like in one, which is like awesome. You don't need this player for that, or you know, a player for this. But a lot of films, like, you know, maybe they only were released on one format, so you have to use, say, a VHS or a DVD because it's not released on Blu-ray or what have you. But it's funny how that all works.
Yeah, thank God for Netflix, man.
Oh yeah, now it's like streaming and that. You just hit a button or even YouTube, and then there you go. No physical discs and all that. But you know, as Keith was saying, like, I too prefer like tangible items. Like, I still prefer to buy like video games and have physical copies. I don't like this digital or in the cloud where it's like, where the hell is it? Like, if something happened to my account, is it gone for good? Like, I don't know. It's funny how it all works.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you know, and then you got to pay for it again. But, and man, I always respect my guest time, and I feel like we took up a ton of yours. So if there's anything you want to plug, feel free. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I'm sure you guys got it.
It's been a fun show.
Yeah.
It was so fast, man.
It's a blast, man. I always end up losing track of time, and then I end up, you know, keeping people, and it's like, damn, I feel terrible after.
This is fun.
The only thing I wanted to plug was for Tim League and the Alamo Drafthouse Theaters, because he's doing a lot of work putting out this movie. That I'm glad, because when it came out in '88, it went out and then kind of fizzled. Everybody went on with their careers. So it's a funny story how some people seen it and they brought it to him, and him and Quentin Tarantino, they love these old movies that no CGI, you know, real stunt guys, real explosions, real gasoline. So he called me like 6 months ago and says, I couldn't even believe it was him on the phone. I thought it was a joke. He goes, we want to re-release your movie. And I'm like, you kidding me? So they spent a ton of money getting it up to code to, you know, to make it. They didn't change any of the movie. They just want to make it look good for people at the theaters and all that stuff.
That's awesome.
So yeah, they're rolling that out on November 16th. So any Action USA fans out there watching, it's going to be coming out. Then they'll be doing the other digital. After it goes to the theaters, they'll be doing the other digital platforms with the Blu-ray and all the stuff I was talking about. So that's all I really have to plug, besides the music.
Of course.
I plug it. My whole career, you know, even doing Power Rangers, I never went on shows, and I never plugged. I never did interviews. I never did any of that stuff, So this is all kind of new to me.
Mm-hmm.
You got to do it with the music, because if you don't get it out there, and if you don't talk about it and get people over the website, then they won't know who you are.
Exactly.
I'm gonna hop on John's plug and say I just looked it up. So to find your local Alamo Draft House Theater, you go to drafthouse.com, and they're in a lot of the major cities in the U.S. So if you guys want to see Action USA November 16th, head there.
They're coming out. They're going to put it on Alamo, but then they're putting it in other theaters too. So not just Alamo.
Yeah.
It'll be on Walmart. Or it'll be everywhere. iTunes and other theater chains. They're going to. The original release is on November 6th, depending how COVID's doing at that time.
Yeah.
Right.
If everybody's going to theaters, it may get pushed as, things open up.
Absolutely.
Are we gonna take a road trip to Orlando for the premiere, John?
Well, they're building a theater there. Alamo there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said he wants to fly me all around the country to go talk at the openings of all these movies, but he says that's going to be like the first quarter of next year when things open up, because who knows what theaters are going to be open in what city, depending on how things go. I'm just glad it's still happening, because he called me right before COVID, and then all of a sudden COVID hit, and I'm like, okay, well, this deal's going away. Then about a month ago, he's just, well, no, we're coming. I'm like, okay, great.
Yeah, movies all got postponed for like a year, which sucks.
Yeah.
It's kind
They
of
spent a ton of money getting this thing ready, and now the COVID hit,
And then it's like, especially I know, like, or even some movies are just going straight to like digital release. So it's like, there you go. You lost all your revenue from theaters and that. So, and then people were complaining. I know one movie, I think it was that Disney movie Mulan. Like, people were complaining like, oh, I don't want to pay this much for Disney Plus, and then I have to pay this much to just watch the film itself. So I feel like, unfortunately, they really lost a lot of money for that. So, but what can you do? It's like, does the studio hold on to it and wait, or, try and salvage some money for this film?
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of execs are trying to figure that out.
You were saying you have a website that you wanted to promote?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. So
on the music website, where all our songs are free, by the way. You can download them for free. We're not charging like 99 cents, So if people want to share it, there's no excuse. They can just download it,
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me know, too. Contact me however you want. I'm all over social media and things of that nature. So about the backdrop, I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, the website's julianamusic.com. I forgot to even say that, but Madeleine, I thought she's good at that stuff.
yeah, check out julianamusic.com if you want to listen to the singles. We have 3 singles on there right now, and we also have YouTube links on there. They all have 4 songs on there. And then we have 3 music videos out too. So those are all on there. The YouTube links, our Facebook and Instagram is on there too. The Instagram is follow Juliana if you want to hop on there. And yeah, definitely check it out if you can. It's been a lot of fun for us, so we want to share it as much as possible.
Absolutely.
We definitely want to do a backdrop with you, so let's stay in touch.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
Madeleine, because she's good at that. She can give you ideas, and I'm sure you come up with something great, because what you're doing looks great from what I can see. So that would be cool.
Yeah, man, I'm happy to do it. It's a blast, and I just did a couple new ones for my own show for Halloween season, and for Christmas season, I want to change it up a little bit. So I had a blast doing that, and it doesn't take me much time unless I just get into it and just screw around and play with things. Then, if I got nothing else going on, sometimes that's all I want to do. So I'll spend a day doing it. Other times I can whip something up in minutes that looks like, it took a lot of effort, but I'm so familiar with the program now that I just know what I'm looking for, and I managed to do it. So I'm happy to do it. Yeah, for sure.
I really appreciate it, because your work looks great.
Oh, thanks so much.
I want to do one not only to do what you're doing here, but I want to do one that we can transfer onto a canvas for live shows for a backdrop. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Not only was mentioned you can do it digitally, like if we're doing one of these shows, but I want something for the stage too.
Oh yeah.
Whatever you do, if you can get that somehow put on a big backdrop.
That's super easy to do because the program that I use to do it, I can send the file and it can be given to any of these print companies where they can actually print it onto an actual canvas or whatever you want. So it's pretty easily transferable.
Cool. I'm looking forward to that.
Too cool. Yeah, let's collab, Keith. This is awesome.
Yeah, it'll be a blast. I'm happy to do it. So just hit me up on, usually Facebook's probably the best place. I got like a couple profiles for what used to be for business, and then personal. It's just become everything's so meshed. It's I get people add me all the time from, like fans and stuff adding me on either one. It's like nothing's personal anymore. So I don't care. But yeah, just let me know what you're looking for and I'll throw it together.
Sounds great. With your Zoom background right now, are you up against a blank wall, or like would it work like with this background that I have, or if you made a digital one for us for Zoom?
I've got a green screen, so that's what I use.
Oh, okay.
I think Zoom though, their program, the way it works, you could pick, it's like, I think it could work with what you have right now. You just have to pick like a solid color. I'm just a little concerned because I'm looking at the shadowing from the striping there, but you could give it a try. I think it depends on your computer or your phone as well. But yeah, typically, good lighting and a solid background that the program itself can distinguish and place the backdrop on there.
Cool.
Cool.
Well, thank you. This was so great. It was nice to meet you both.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Nice meeting you guys.
Yeah, you too. It was awesome having you. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Sure thing.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Adios.
Take care.
All right, y'all. So that was Jon Stewart and his singer for his band, Madeleine. I didn't know that she was going to be on until I recorded the intro for the show, and I got a text from the PR agent and asked if it'd be cool if she would be on. I was like, absolutely. So very cool guest. We obviously got along great. We hit it off. I highly recommend you check out their work. Absolutely amazing. I support my guests, as I said, and I think that they deserve it. They're really cool people, and their work is solid, and there's something to be said for that. Indie bands and stuff like that are not mass produced, as we talked about, I think are well deserving of attention. So check them out, man. They were great guests, had a blast. I'll catch your asses later, man. Thanks for checking us out.
I will not speak to your smallness, a destruction of the fear in us. I have yet to know what I